Hi, and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, I have a book review, and it is a little bit different than the books that I normally review. But I got this book shortly after CrimeCon this past year, and it is so cool. And I wanted to review it with you guys. But this review will also be a bit different because the book itself is different. So as we get into it, that will make much more sense. But if you saw the thumbnail or the title for tonight's video, it is Nicole Angemi's Anatomy Book, a catalog of familiar, rare, and unusual pathologies. And this on the back is Nicole Angemi. So she is amazing in her own right. I got to see her speak at CrimeCon. If you guys watched my review of CrimeCon Denver, that was one of the few presentations that I actually got to sit in on. And that was one where I got there right as it started, and it was already packed and over capacity that I just sit in the back on the floor just to watch her speak, but so worth it. She is so worth it. And she did her presentation on, shocker, celebrity autopsies. So I will say, I did fangirl a little bit for Nicole at CrimeCon. I happened to walk through where Podcast Row was, and I saw her and I was like, oh my God, that's Nicole. That's Nicole. And I was so nervous to go up to her, but I did. And I got my photo with her. I showed that way back again on my CrimeCon Denver review, but I was very fortunate enough to meet Nicole, which was very exciting. I tried to get this book at CrimeCon, but they only had a limited amount and I didn't get it in time. I was so bummed, but I did order it after the fact, hence why I am reviewing it for y'all tonight. But before we jump into that, let's rewind a little. So hello, everyone. I am back after a little bit of a break. Don't get me wrong. I was not just sitting around. It was dance show week last week, so I was non-stop busy. But dance show went well. So yeah, I can settle down a little bit now, and that now opens up Monday nights because usually I practice very late on Monday nights, and I do not have that for the next maybe 2 months or so. So in regards to when shows will be at the beginning of the week now, it could be a Monday or Tuesday. Will kind of depend on what's going on. In regards to just general housekeeping things, all of the links are down below. If you are not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to my social medias, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Cameo links, the Buy Me a Coffee, the merch. There has been some kind of picking up again of the merch, which is very, very cool to kind of see that kind of get a little bit of a spark again. So again, all of those links are down below. In regards to book club. So January book club, the end of the month will be Sherry Frankie's book, House of My Mother. So I'm almost done with that. And then I will do a read through again to do my notes for that. Again, that will be the last Thursday of this month, which I believe is next week, which is just like crazy how the month is almost over. I'm just pulling up so I have the right date for y'all. Yeah, next Thursday, January 29th. So I am really looking forward to going over that with y'all. And again, if any of you have read it and want to be on, you are more than welcome. Or if you want to just kind of hang back in the chat, but I'm really looking forward to discussing it with y'all. So tune in for that. Let's see what else is coming. I have a bunch of guests that will be coming on, kind of sprinkled through the next several months. So stay tuned for that. A lot of exciting people, a lot of exciting things to talk about. I can't wait to kind of share that with y'all. It'll be super, super fun. Beckham is in the chat. What is this, Danny? Send me some Beckham. Beckham, you can order your own merch. You can order your own candles. yes, everybody, if you want your very own Beckham candle, they are at the merch store, link down below. So, oh gosh, free the Beckham candle. I mean, worse things have been said here in the chat, I suppose, but on a very random side note, so I have posted some pictures on the Instagram account, but I was like, okay, I don't want to overwhelm y'all because you guys might just be like, Danny, like, we know you like cats, but true crime, come on, get back with it. So in my free time, I have been either venturing out by myself because I can make my own fun time, or with friends, dance friends or whatnot, to visit cat cafes that are in the kind of surrounding area to where we are. And when I say surrounding, meaning driving like up to an hour and a half each way just to check these cat cafes out. And it's been so much fun to do that, to see all these different cat cafes, see how they run, several out of state, seeing what they do similar to the rescue work that I do here, or what they do different. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been taking a lot of pictures and, posting some here and there. If that's something where you guys are like, no, we would love to see more posted on Instagram, I will do so. Other than that, if you're like, nope, your cat's in the background, they're fine enough for me, then that's cool too. One of the things where I do at each point now, and I'll just kind of wear t-shirts throughout. Y'all know I love to collect t-shirts. Is I've been buying t-shirts at each place that I've been going to because, one, I love to support, and two, can't have enough t-shirts. So I did get t-shirts from all the places I've been visiting. So I'll be kind of, wearing that here and there throughout the show as the months go on. I am tonight rocking, and I'm very excited, my new tuxedo cat earrings. I'm not sure if it's picking up quite on camera, but I saw that at one of the gift shops at the cat cafes. I was like, oh, I have to have that because tuxedos are my favorite type of cat. So yeah, that's what I'm rocking for tonight's book review. So let's see what else. Just a couple of events coming up. So the weekend of April 11th, I will be in Albuquerque, New Mexico for the Beyond the Crime convention. So if anybody's in that area, definitely check that event out. I will be doing a live show there. Topic, you have to kind of go to find out what that is, but the topic has been already approved and decided. So I'm very excited and working on that. End of May, the last weekend to be specific, will be Crime Con Vegas. As far as I know, a lot of podcast girlfriends in mine were just like, has anybody heard yet? Has anybody heard yet? In regards to booths, but that quite hasn't been announced yet. But either way, your girl will be at Crime Con Vegas this year, and Mr. Beckham will be there too. And y'all, Beckham plus Vegas equals I have a phone, and y'all are coming for the ride with me. Yeah, it's going to be that type of trip. So, but if you are in the area and you're like, I want to check out Crime Con and see Danny and Beckham, come. It will be a blast. And that is the last weekend in May. And then in October, jumping ahead quite a bit, will be the Crime Story Fest. So that will be the holiday weekend in October, and that will be here in Massachusetts. I will be doing a live show there as well. Beckham will be there. The Liz will be there. Oh my God, like so many of my podcast friends will be there. I'm so excited for this. It's just going to be like the best time to hang out with, my fellow content creators and y'all too, who are in this area who, plan to come. It's going to be a blast. So again, that's not till October, but October in Massachusetts, it's going to be right near Salem. It's a win-win. So, all right, that is that. So now that we have that out of the way, let's see who is in the chat here, and then we will get started into this book, which I'm really excited. James Watson, I knew you would be one of the first people here. I absolutely knew that. I don't know what grade we're in, but I'm not showing pictures because I don't want to get my channel getting a strike, but we'll get into pictures soon. Danny's, I know I was a couple minutes late. My bad. I was like, oh, let me start a little bit early tonight. Yeah. Hey Wolf, why was Danny late? She thought she heard an intruder. Oh God, no kidding. I will never live that down. Y'all will never let me live that down. And I still can't believe that Boston accent of mine that I don't think I have just came out during that episode. I mean, wow. Can't make this stuff up, right? Hey PJ, good to see you. Hey William, hope you're doing well. God. Wolf says the 2 new Danny After Dark Club glasses came December 26th. Oh, I would guess we'll keep them next year for presents. Or use them now, set of 4, right? Right? You can't have too many Danny After Dark pint glasses. I mean, but that's just my humble opinion. My wife wants to go to the cat type petting place. I think it is in Gettysburg. Yeah, I don't know what's in your area, Wolf. But cat cafes are becoming like more and more common, which is an amazing thing because being, in the field, and I say that it sounds as though I work in it, but no, I just volunteer in it. In the rescue field, it's such an amazing networking opportunity for a shelter because it takes cats that don't do as well in cages and it kind of gives them a place to just be in a more natural setting until they get adopted. So it's just amazing. I think it's just like a win-win overall. And it's cool because like I have 6 cats, so I'm not looking to adopt anymore at this time. Sometimes my heart's a little bigger than I'm just like, oh no, could I do a 7th? But it's just a great opportunity for me to go and hang out with some more adoptable cats and I think it's a win-win. Or for people who can't have pets, for whatever reason, I think it's a win-win. So yeah, if there's one in your area, you and your wife should definitely check it out and take pictures and send them to me, please. I would love to see that. I might be open to getting a black cat. All right, Becca, me and you are going to be having a conversation because last I knew you were not a cat person. Actually, I looked it up. It's a museum where all the Oh, see, I would go to that too and have fun, but I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. All right, folks. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So you guys know how when I do my notes for my book reviews, well, I usually don't tell you guys till after the fact because I know if you guys tuned in and heard me say it, you guys would be like, no, I'll watch this later or I'll just watch the recap at the end. Sometimes I have maybe 30 pages of a book review. Sometimes I have 50 or more. I'll just stress that. This, no, not even close. I'm 6 pages of notes. However, I will read what these sections are in this book. Again, I will not show pictures because I do not want to get a strike on this channel. But we will get into it. And I was debating whether I would read like each of the pathologies because chances are I'm going to really mess up how they're pronounced. But I'm like, you know what? Let's go for the ride. Some of them I may pronounce right, and you guys would be like, oh, I've heard of that. Or some of you might be like, I've never heard of that. I want to learn a little bit more. And maybe buying the book is one way to do that. So again, this is Nicole Angemi's anatomy book. So the book itself is 287 pages. It's a bit of a smaller book, so it is quite dense, but all pages, y'all, they're color. They are color. And I think the book, I got it off Amazon. I can't remember what I paid offhand, but I found it extremely reasonably priced for the quality of the book. This is hardcover. And again, every single page is color in good quality cover or color photos. So like huge shout out to Nicole for the way this book was designed. It's stunning, absolutely stunning. Presentation of it, the quality of it, absolutely spot on. So the book itself is has an introduction that is 8 pages long. So I usually read a little bit of the introductions, but where it's 8 pages, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But I did take little snippets from it just so you guys got an idea of what the book is about and who Nicole is if you are not familiar with her. I would say follow her on social media. Her Instagram is so cool. And she also has a podcast with her daughter, which we will get to that as well. Such a great podcast. And on Instagram, they post little snippets from each of the episodes with not only a little clip of Nicole and her daughter talking about it, but also the like pictures from what they are describing. So that is very cool. So like if this book is something where you're like, wow, that interests me, go over to the Instagram for her and follow that to kind of get a little bit more of that like daily in regards to the clips they show. So anyway, jumping back. So Nicole, she is no different than any other mom, except she dissects humans on the side. She's a pathologist's assistant. So what is a pathologist assistant? That is someone who is a trained medical professional that works in a hospital's pathology department. They specialize in human anatomy, abnormal anatomy, and disease. So Nicole, during her career, has dissected thousands of humans and human body parts. Quote, I'm able to determine what's normal and what causes a patient to have pathology, both in life and in death, end quote. So she says that growing up, she never felt, quote unquote, normal or that she fitted until she had pathology. She felt normal when she discovered abnormal pathology, to be specific. She was rebellious as a teen and actually ended up pregnant at 14 years old. And at 15 years old, she gave birth to her daughter, Maria. So Maria is actually her co-host on her podcast. And I will say, meeting them in person at CrimeCon, you would see a photo of the two of them. You would never think they're mother and daughter. You would think they're sisters. Nicole looks so young for her age. Like, I think she's, to give credit where credit is due, she's absolutely gorgeous. And she's covered in tattoos. So right away, I'm just like, all right, I like your vibe. I like your vibe. But yes, so at 15, she gave birth to her daughter, Maria. So she describes how being a teen mom and going through that journey was very rough. She struggled as a kid, but now she was a kid trying to find her way while having a kid. At 16 years old, she dropped out of high school and ended up kind of hopping from job to job. At 19 years old, she and her daughter were no longer going to be covered under her parents' health insurance. And this is what forced Nicole to get a job with benefits. So she enrolled in a local community college and she decided to be a nurse. That is where she absolutely fell in love with science. Her professor, who was able to see Nicole's interest in science, helped her network with other laboratory professionals. And I know not just in this field, but networking is just so important. And when you have, I've had those moments in my life where you've connected with a professor kind of, yes, inside the classroom, but also outside of the classroom where they see like, okay, yes, this is one of my students, but they have an interest in something outside of what I'm teaching here in this class. And it leads to opportunities down the road, which is just so valuable. And this is what happened here with Nicole, right? So this professor helped her network again with other laboratory professionals. This led to her first job working in a hospital microbiology lab. And that job consisted of taking urine, sputum, blood, feces, nose swabs, etc., and putting them under agar plates, which is more commonly known as Petri dishes. So Nicole was now looking into university so that she could further her education because she loved what she did and she wanted more. So she transferred to the university in Philadelphia. She switched jobs. So now she was working at a larger laboratory at a university hospital. So she moved herself and her then 7-year-old daughter, Maria, to the city. Nicole had a strong interest in cellular changes and the microscope. So what she majored in, and I know I'm going to butcher this, so I'm actually going to copy and paste it in the chat, but I'm going to try to pronounce it. All right, posting in the chat. Cytotechnology. So that is part of the anatomic, oh my gosh, I knew I was going to butcher it, anatomic pathology lab that studies changes in cells under the microscope. And what that does is it looks for signs of cancer, infections, and other pathology. So as I'm talking here, I'm sure you can kind of see where Nicole's interests have been kind of geared towards, right? So she graduated with a bachelor's of science at 23 years old and was hired as a, and I'm totally going to butcher this, cytotechnologist at a hospital. And she worked there for 10 years. She asked the pathology director to switch her to a different department known as, quote, the gross room, end quote, where she could cut into body parts. The book talks about what the gross room is. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's like the more you kind of learn about Nicole, you're just like, all right, it's no wonder that she heard of this and was like, I want more. And as a reader, I get to that part and I'm just like, I need to know what this is. I want more information. So, but I will leave that for you to discover more of with the book. So she found a program at a local university that offered a master's degree for a pathologist assistant. And within a month, she then started working in the gross room. And within a year, she began school for her master's. How amazing is this? Like when I was reading this, and again, she's not done with her career here. It just really resonated with me when, you know, it's like you go to, there's so many of us that like, you know, you go through the basics of school and, you know, high school or even like those kind of introductory classes in college that everybody has to take. And it's like biology. What am I going to do with this? I mean, in Nicole's case, she did a lot. History, what am I going to do with this? Depending on what you want to, you know, specialize in, a lot of the stuff you don't end up using from those basic classes that colleges require you to take. But then when you hit those classes where it's what you want to do and what you love, you just go, at least for myself, I see that when I'm reading Nicole's book, I see a little bit of myself in that, where when I went to, you know, got to my core psychology classes, I'm just like full speed ahead. Let's keep them coming. And then I actually ended up minoring in philosophy, which I didn't see that coming at all. I took one intro class just to get an elective out of the way and fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. And then just dived into philosophy. And I think I ended up taking more classes than what was required for philosophy because I just loved it so much. But again, I saw little sparks of myself in that, where it's like you, with Nicole's story, you see something and you finally are like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to learn, in full steam ahead. So again, she's now working on her master's, and within 2 years, she got that master's degree. And while working full-time, going to school full-time, and being a single mom. I'm going to repeat that because it's so important to her story, but also like, I can't give her enough credit. She worked full-time, went to school full-time, and was a single mom full-time for her daughter. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it was during this period of time she got to experience her first autopsy. So Nicole, what she started doing was gross conferences. And she talks a bit about that and what that entails. If you want to learn more, get the book. But really cool, really, really cool. And she also started to post online a lot of this work. And her Instagram completely took off. So now her personal life outside of her work is evolving because she just got married. She had her daughter, Maria, was now a college student herself. And she had a second child with her husband, and then was pregnant with her third child. So she had a lot going on, right? So the gross conferences that she was doing ended up getting shut down. So what she was like, all right, this is not stopping. I'm going to post on Instagram. Instagram then deleted her account. So she would create new accounts, but Instagram would then shut those down too. So her current account, Mrs. Angemi, which I will post here in the chat, that is still on Instagram and it has close to 2 million followers, which is just so rad. And oh my God, y'all, follow this account. So Mrs. Angemi is her Instagram account. What she describes of this book is, quote, I wanted to make a book that was like a pathology textbook, but written for everyone, not just people working in medicine and pathology, end quote. So again, I just summed up a bit of what the 8 pages was of her introduction. Again, it goes a bit more into her background and her story, but I just kind of gave you guys the in a nutshell of it. I would say I absolutely loved the introduction. I thought it should have been a chapter in itself, to be completely honest. Sometimes introductions, I feel they're basic. This I felt gave so much information. Again, I really felt it should have been a chapter in itself. But you get the sense of who Nicole is, her journey to get to where she is in her career and in her life, and why she took such an interest in this field. And that's just absolutely incredible. So quick pause for that, and I'll see where you guys are in the chat. You guys are so funny making fun of Paul in the chat. Love that. So there is a section in the book called the Angemi Anatomy Crash Course chapter. And that is one of my favorite chapters at the very beginning. So I took a few quotes from that I felt really summed up what this book was about a bit more in detail besides Nicole's kind of brief biography background. So she says, quote, one of the coolest parts of doing a modern day autopsy is that I'm looking at the same exact anatomy that was studied by physicians and anatomists thousands of years before me. There were no textbooks or highly sophisticated CT scanners back then, just knives and dead bodies, end quote. She also goes on to say it's important for anyone in medicine to understand the parameters of normal anatomy, how things look, and physiology, how things work before we can understand pathology, saying we must understand what is right to know what is wrong. So she talks about the reasons people die, and that can be broken down into 4 categories or manners of death, which are natural, accidental, homicide, and suicide. And the book then goes into a bit of a description of what each of those are and what they entail with examples. In regards to pathology, there are only 2 different ways to get a pathology, which is congenital and acquired. And the book goes into that a bit more. I feel a lot of us in kind of watching and reading and listening and learning about true crime are pretty familiar with the manners of death, maybe not so much the 2 ways to get a pathology. So for her to kind of break that down as a reader for myself, I was actually very fascinated by that because she, again, describes it in a way where anybody could pick up this book and read what she's saying and be like, I follow, I get what she's saying. Not all books like this do that. She is not writing this for the scholar. She's writing this for you and me, the average person who just has an interest in this and wants to learn. And I think that is so, so important. And you get that as the reader throughout the entire thing, because some of the things that she's going to go over that I'll kind of go through each of the kind of different pathologies she goes over. Again, whether I pronounce them right or wrong is to be decided. But at the end of the day, I read each one in each section, and she gives examples and she gives pictures of all of them. And I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of understanding what this is, just the basics. And then if there was one that I'm like, you know what, I find that fascinating, I want to learn a little bit more, then me or the reader is able to do that. But again, she makes it just so basic that anybody can read any section in this book and follow along. So All right, we got some comments here. The human body is wild, brain, scan, etc. MR. Oh my gosh, absolutely, right. And not only that, Wolf, but you go to a doctor's appointment and you kind of go through that and you wait like maybe a half hour, an hour, depending on what test you're doing. And they've already reviewed it, scanned it, and they have their answer, which it's like, we think how fast that is nowadays. Of course, when we're sitting there waiting, we wish it could be faster, let's be completely honest. But if we really step back and think how quickly, I mean, think about it when you unfortunately have to go to the ER and you're waiting for those results. In the grand scheme of things, you get answers pretty quickly, which is just fascinating, right? Let's see. Our cells completely are replaced every 7 years. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true or not, what you're saying, something like that. I don't know, but I've heard that type of saying before. I want a new shoulder. I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of us can be like, yeah, we can, as we age, improve for sure. So discrimination in pathology. So when it got to that section, I'm like, what does that mean? And she talks about how it's necessary because it narrows down the possibilities for doctors so that there's no delay or misdiagnosis. So discrimination in pathology is actually a good thing. And it goes on to kind of describe why in more detail with examples. And since pathology can be genetic, for example, certain diseases and conditions are more prevalent in certain races, ethnicities. So pathology can be required and be linked to certain socioeconomic lifestyles as well. So there's so many things to factor in, right? Well, let's just add another thing. Pathology presents differently in different age groups. That is because their diagnosis and treatments are approached differently. And as I'm saying each of these things, I'm sure you're thinking, well, Danny, obviously all of those make sense. No kidding, right? But kind of when you're first, it's easy for us to kind of think that, but when someone is presenting a symptom or several symptoms and they're going to their doctor or going to the emergency room or to a specialist and they don't have all this, background information, how quickly they're, for the most part, to get answers, they're able to kind of narrow down what they do to get what they do. It's fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating. So that is my 6 pages of notes for kind of leading up to the book. So again, I will not show pictures because I do not want to get a strike. But when you go through the book, again, let me just show this picture of Nicole. Isn't she so beautiful? So each chapter is by alphabetical order, which is pretty cool. So, for example, I just kind of opened here. You get to the letter K, and then you go through all of the things there. And each diagnosis that is gone over, each pathology, I should say, is about, at minimum, 2 pages, and they all have a photo with it, sometimes more than one photo. Or some pathologies in here can be maybe 3 or 4 pages, depending on how much she describes about each of them. But with that being said, this, again, isn't like the type of book where you kind of sit and go chapter by chapter. It's not that type of book. You could literally read one pathology and then put it down. Or you could read through 50 of them and put it down. Or you could very easily just sit and go through the whole thing if you have that much time to give. It's that type of book. However, if this type of thing like grosses you out, because the pictures do not hold back. They're not gory. They're not glorifying anything. Again, it's like, yes, she's into true crime because she, has the podcast that she does. And she does autopsies, which, again, people from the true crime community find that fascinating. But she's a scientist first and foremost, right? Like, she does science. So biology is her thing. Science is her thing. The human body and studying all of that is her thing. And it's very much presented from that angle. And I don't want that to get lost. She is somebody that I will say, She makes this book and her passion for what she does, she makes it seem so cool because she loves it. And she admits that, like when she's at CrimeCon, she's just like she loves this type of stuff. When there's like something presents, when she's doing an autopsy and it's a bit different, she's so excited to kind of find out the answers. And anytime somebody is really into their field, especially something like this, where it's a bit different, but it's science, it is, biology, it is all of those things. And she makes it like so cool and so fun. I think that's amazing for people who either want to go in this field or for the younger generation that's like, hey, she makes science look cool. She makes biology look cool. I will say when I read it, or, read it, because it's the type of book that's different with reading, right? I found it absolutely fascinating. And for that split second, I'm like, oh, I would love to do what she does. But then I get back to reality and I'm like, girl, biology was not your thing in school. Biopsych, that was out of all my psych courses, that was the one I did the worst in. The worst. And I knew that going into it. It's just not my field. Statistics, all of that abnormal psych, sociology, like adolescent psychology, death and dying psychology, like all of that stuff excelled. Biopsych, not so. I tried. And I did okay, but not nearly as good. But again, reading this is just one of those like, oh my God, that's fascinating. I would love to do that. But I knew it. I know I could never do that. But I hope people read this book and they're so inspired by Nicole that they're like, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. That would just be absolutely amazing. So, hey, Dancing Firefly, good to see you. Long time no see. I hope you're doing well. So, all right, just making sure I'm caught up in the chat. Okay, perfect. So I will go ahead again and read the different, like, for example, this is kind of the way it is laid out in the book. So I will read them. And if I mess it up, my apologies. So it's broken up into, again, alphabetical. So in regards to sections, it starts with, for A, the abdomen and different pathologies that fall within that. The adrenal gland, the anus, appendix, and arm. And again, within each of those, there are different pathologies. For B, it goes over bladder, bone, brain, and breast. C is just simply the circulatory system, but again, a lot of different things within that. D is digestive system. E, ear, eye. F is fascia, feet. G, gallbladder. H, hair, hands, and heart. I is the immune system. J is jaw and joints. K, kidney. L, liver and lymphatic system. M is the male reproductive system. N, nailed nervous system, nose. O, ovaries. P, pancreas and placenta. Q, quadriceps. I can't even begin to say that right. We're going to leave it there. R for respiratory. S for salivary gland and skin. T for teeth, throat. I'm probably going to butcher this. Thymus. Thyroid and tongue. U for uterus. V, vagina and vulva. W, womb. And then H and W. And why that is broken up that way is because H and W chromosomes. And then finally, Z is zygomatic. So I know I just said those pretty quickly, and you guys are probably thinking, wait, that's it? But within each of those sections, again, there's so much within each. I personally was drawn to the ones where, and I know this like from a learning perspective, because you could kind of see when each patient presented their symptoms, kind of how doctors thought it could be one thing or another. But there were so many instances in this book where I would say it's kind of split. Instances where someone was presenting a certain type of system or symptom, they went to their doctor, and right away they were able to diagnose what it was and get them, into the right either medication or treatment for that. On the flip side, there were a decent amount in this book as well, where the symptoms would present as something and doctors either misdiagnosed or just didn't know. And then the patient had to go for, a second opinion or a third opinion to finally get to what it was. And the only reason those kind of stood out to me more was because, to me, it's just a whole world of when there's like one or two symptoms. It's like, how are doctors able to just narrow it down? And they can't always do that. And on the one hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so horrible that the patient had to go X amount of time before they finally got the right diagnosis. But when Nicole was describing it, you could see where the doctors were kind of going with that. And some of them, you could see how they could be so easily misdiagnosed. And then some of them, to be perfectly honest, were frustrating because, and this is not just in this book, we see it with ourselves, I'm sure, or people we know, where doctors don't always listen to the patient. They come with a certain symptom or symptoms, and they're just not believed for whatever reason. And that would happen in some of these. The doctors would say, no, you're fine, it's just anxiety, or no, it's fine, you just need more sleep. And there were a few in this book where it ended up being terminal because it didn't get diagnosed till later in life, or the patient was trying to get it diagnosed and doctors kept saying, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And then by the time the symptoms kind of worsened, it was too late. So there's a bit of everything in this book, but the ones I kind of gravitated more were the ones where the patients had to kind of go from doctor to doctor to kind of get the diagnosis, not for a lack of trying on the doctor's part. That's a big difference, big difference. But it was very interesting. There were a decent amount of pathologies that the reader's like, okay, I've heard of those, or I know a little bit about, and then we'll get a better understanding in the book. There were a decent amount that I'm like, I've never heard of what this is, and pictures to accompany it, right? I will say, I did post on my Instagram. I brought this book during, dance the past few nights before the show. And I did leave it out there. So I said to any of the interest, I'm like, hey, this book is so cool. If any of you guys want to kind of take a look through, feel free. But warning, the pictures are graphic. And one of my dance friends, who's actually a doctor, was flipping through this book, and she's like, oh my goodness. So I'm like, read it if you want, which was kind of interesting, but to kind of see her take a look at this book. But yeah, so that is the review I am leaving for you guys for this book. Again, very different type of review because it's a very different type of book. I definitely recommend this book to anyone. Again, you can see how it would be a little bit on the true crime end, but more so on the anatomy, medical science, biology type of route. So if that's your thing too, you could definitely get something out of this book. Either way, I definitely recommend it. And again, Nicole Angemi, staple at CrimeCon. Check out her podcast, her Instagram, all of that fun stuff. To kind of see more day-to-day conversations she has about different pathologies, as well as pictures on her social media, if that's the type of thing you're into. So, short review for tonight. So if anybody has any questions or comments on the book, definitely feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you on that. Or if you have read this book, especially my CrimeCon people, let me know, because this is one of those books where I did message with several podcast friends who were able to get the book either at CrimeCon or after and have read it. So definitely curious on your take as well. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of the evening and the rest of your week. I will be back at the end of the week for the weekly True Crime and Chill with Mr. Beckham. So Until then, remember, everybody, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.